the third vlog on ChatGPT. In my previous two vlogs, I gave you a little bit of overview of the ChatGPT, the origin of the GPT 3.5 model. I also provided a little bit of a hands-on experience on how you can navigate through this tool in order to use it for different purposes, such as using it as a writing assistant for writing article or essay, or even use it as a platform that can give you coding assistant. If you already read the news, Microsoft invested a lot of money on OpenAI, the company who launched ChatGPT. So the popularity of this ChatGPT tool is keep growing, and it's gonna be a revolutionary product in the future, as all the pundits are predicting right now. So now you know how to use the ChatGPT tool. You know how you can use it for your professional or personal work. But being a data scientist, aren't you interested to know more about the underlying model? Don't you want to play around with the model and see how you can harness the power of that natural language processing model for different purposes? So that's why I made this vlog, just to give you a little bit of overview of how you can use GPT 3.5 Playground, which is one of the source of truth of the API that OpenAI launched publicly, and then using that API, how you can build a very small primitive app for different natural language processing tasks, such as grammar correction, or preparing a text summarization tool, or even just getting help from SQL query standpoint. So let's go to the next section where I'll show you that how you can play with this GPT 3.5 playground and use the corresponding API to do some different natural language processing task. So let's check it out in the next section. If you want to start using GPT 3.5 Playground, the first thing you need to do is create an OpenAI API key. To generate an API key, go to this site. If you go site, you can create your new secret key and use that key to log into the GPT 3.5 Playground. Once you access the key, you can actually just go to the GPT 3.5 Playground and see how the playground looks like. So this is the home page of the GPT 3.5 Playground, where you can see various example applications of there. Let's check out this one, grammar correction. So in the grammar correction, it's also another natural language processing task that you can perform using GPT 3.5 model. In this playground, you'll see a few different panels. Like the first one is, this is actually the main a dashboard, or where you actually type in the information. Like for example, that we want to correct this particular sentence. She went to the market. Obviously, it's grammatically off. It's incorrect. So now, if you want to understand that how this GPT 3.5 model works on the playground, all you need to do is tap in this thing and just click on submit. What it does that it will call the GPT 3.5 model at the backend, and the GPT 3.5 model will provide the output in a correct grammatical format, and that form, the output is actually prompted on the screen. On the right-hand side, you will see some of those parameters. Like for example, if you want to play with the different model, then you can always select other models that's related to GPT 3.5. But currently, as per the GPT 3.5 model, this text DaVinci 003 is the latest model that they're using right now. As you can see, if you just hover your mouse over there, it will give you a little bit of description about this GPT 3.5 model. There are some other parameters over here, and you can learn more about those parameters as you go further with your natural language processing study. So now let's go back to the example screen and see what else we can do with this 3.5 model on the playground. Like for example, let's see this SQL Translate. So what it does is, for example, if you want to understand, if you want to write a SQL query, and you do have the question, but you don't know how to proceed on that. So in that case, GPT 3.5 or ChatGPT can help you. So if when you like use ChatGPT, you need to actually type in some of the information up there. So this playground, it's just kind of like another interface that look like ChatGPT interface. Like if you want to like type in type some information in ChatGPT, you have to like put it on the box, right? So the same information you can type in on the playground, and if you click on the submit button, it will give you the output in a prompt format, similar to what you can see on ChatGPT. Like here, what we are trying to understand is if let's see if ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 model can write a query for myself. So the query is like a query to list names of the department which employed more than 10 employees in the last 3 months. So we already gave a little bit of information to the model that we will have one employee table with certain columns. We'll have a department table, and we also have salary payments. So we've already provided like an abstract structure of the of three tables. Now we're asking GPT 3.5 that how it can formulate a SQL query using the information provided too. So what we are going to do is now we're going to just click on the submit button, see how this model creates a SQL query. So as you can see, it's almost very correct. Like if you see that, so we have three different tables, right? So first, what we need to find out is we need to find out the name of the departments. And it's possible that like one employee, multiple employee can belong to a same department. So we are going to take a distinct information on the department. Again, this is not a blog related to SQL queries, so I'm not gonna get down to the technical details of select statement. But if you follow along this SQL statement, it's kind of giving an accurate information based on the information I provided to the model. Now, if you go back to, if you look on the right side, you'll see this model is different than the one I used for the grammar correction application. So these models are almost similar. Some of them actually kind of identical to each other, but some of them, I think the main difference between these models are some models were trained with more parameters than their counterparts. Okay, so like suppose if I want to change this model, and if I try to submit answer one more time, okay, let me remove it and try to submit it again. It gives me almost kind of similar information in a different format. So maybe that other model was trained in such a way that it's kind of like supposed to give you the SQL prompt or the prompt the prompt response in that particular format of SQL query. So this is just an example of like ChatGPT and how it can be useful to generate SQL query or help you out in certain technical stuff. Now let's check out another example before we proceed to the next section. So in our computer science world, sometimes we're asked to like calculate the time complexity of a certain algorithm. Like for example, if you go to a technical interview, or if you like go to like your regular computer science engineering class, we often need to decide or calculate the time complexity of an algorithm, which is pretty beneficial to understand that whether the algorithm is sufficient or the performance is benchmark is good or something like that. So calculating time complexity is like a fundamental task in computer science world. So what if we would get some help from ChatGPT in order to calculate time complexity of certain algorithms? So here, this is just a simple example of a for loop. It's more of like a nested loops. And we're asking ChatGPT that how you can calculate time complexity of this certain nested loop. So in that case, what we need to do is first you need to write down the algorithm in a proper format. This is actually in the Python. Okay, so people who are watching this vlog, if you're efficient in Python, this language pretty well. So here, what we are doing is just running a nested loops. We are just running it from I to range of n, and then in every iteration of the ith, we're also like, looping it from I to range k. And each and every time we are actually adding the value to the accumulator, variable. And at the end, we are actually returning the value of ACCM, the variable. So now if somebody would ask you to calculate the time complexity, obviously you need to actually calculate and start going back to your bigger notation class or something like that, right? So, but that will take some time. What if ChatGPT will help you with that? What if ChatGPT will give you a prompt response of time complexity answer? So let me see what ChatGPT will suggest in that case. So are you saying that the time complexity of this functional algorithm is O to the power n multiplication of k? This is because the function has two nested for loops. It's correct, each of which has a time complexity of O(n) and OK respectively. That's correct, because what we're doing in the first for loop, we're actually looping it from 0 to the range of n. And the nested loop, the inner loop, we're actually looping it from I to the range of k. So obviously the time complexity of each of those two loops would be like, On and OK respectively. So therefore, the total time complexity is the product of the two time complexity of those two loops, which is O to the power, bigger notation of n multiplication of k. So if you see the answer, it's formulated in such a way that it gives you a very defined answer with a supportive, I'd say, reasoning or rational. Okay, so if you go to that, if you go to any computer science book, if you try to look for the same functions or try to understand how the complexity of nested loops work, you'll get the similar sort of answer from the textbook or from Google as well. But in ChatGPT, it seems like it gives you answer promptly, so you don't have to like process information, or you don't have to spend a lot of time and effort to find it by yourself. So these three examples kind of giving you a better picture of how you can use this GPT 3.5 playground and use it for your purpose. Now, the next question would be that, okay, you just gave me an overview of how you can leverage GPT 3.5 playground, and you can just play around with a different example application of ChatGPT. Now, if you want to leverage this tool, if I want to call this model to other platform or to other web application, how can I do that? So that's where this OpenAI API key would be very crucial, because the API key would be your gateway to access the model and call it from other application. So like, for example, if you view the code, click on the view code, here you can see that how this particular example application being formed. Like, all you need to do is to generate an API key, which I showed you at the beginning of this video. And once you generate your secret key, then all you need to do is just to call this OpenAI library through your Python function. And in that, and the API will help you to call the model, and you can just pass information. So if it sounds a little confusing, so let me show you how we can do that on a Jupyter notebook. So I'm going to log in, go to my Colab GPT Playground. So this is actually a Python notebook I created just to call those API keys from GPT 3.5 Playground, and just to give you a demonstration on how you can use those, that API key to use certain information. So this is kind of my super secretive API key. So, and what we can do is, like, you can call this API key to do a lot of other stuff. So this time it doesn't work. Sometimes it happens that you can't actually generate your API key and it gives you information. So when the API doesn't work, what all you need to do is to just run that pip install OpenAI one more time. And now if you just run this, it's going to generate again. So what it does is like if we actually have a function called GPT completion. So in the GPT completion function, you pass the text as an argument. So anything, whatever you're writing on that playground should be passed as text to the GPT completion function. And within the GPT completion function, you define your API key, which you generated from the site. And it also has a defined parameters that you need to pass through the completion function. Like one of these is like a prompt that is text because that completion function will take text as an input. It has some other parameters that you need to set as a part of the model. And at the end, based on your text input, the GPT completion function will return the response. So like, for example, here, this is kind of like a text. I'm passing it through the GPT completion function. So what the purpose is that I'm going to actually provide some text input where the sentences are not properly structured grammatically. So now see how GPT model will correct those grammatical errors. So as you see that, like the GPT model is able to give you a correct grammar in a sentence, in a grammatical sentence. And the reason actually it was very useful because so many times it happens that you don't have to go to the GPT 3.5 playground, call it, or rather you just use the Open API key and call it from a different web app or like from a Python notebook, and then the API key will do the rest. API key will make sure that it will call the model from there, and using that model, you can carry out your natural language processing tasks such as grammar errors, or even just like generating the calculating the time complexity, or it can also help you to give you certain information such as writing a SQL query for you. Like for example, I'm passing this I would say like a SQL query. I want GPT 3.5 model to come up with a SQL query based on the information provided. So what I'm asking GPT to do is like create a SQL request to find second highest salary of employee. So this is more of like a hypothetical abstract question, and GPT 3.5 model will process that information as text input and will come up with a SQL query based on the the abstract information provided. So let's see how it does. So now I'm going to run this GPT completion function with a SQL query as a text. Now we can see that if you want to like create a SQL query to find second highest salary of employee, you gotta follow this SQL query, the select query. So the select query will solve the purpose of what I have asked before. You can also do a lot of other stuff, like if you want to like pass a parameter, it can do the summarization for you. If you just pass it like a long paragraph with a combination of various sentences, it can also help you to summarize it in certain format. So the the bottom line is you can use the OpenAI API key to perform so many different stuff. You can use that OpenAI API key to generate build a tool that can help in the grammar correction stuff. It can help you to like summarize text or paragraph. So in a nutshell, the OpenAI API key will be beneficial for any sort of like an app where you are trying to assist your writers or like a researcher or something to write their thesis, because so many times we spend enormous time to like either proofreading the content just to make sure that there is no grammatical issues out there. We also try to like summarize the content based on what we go through after reading like various manuscripts or articles. So GPT 3.5 will help you in that because it will help you to not only summarize the paragraphs or articles into a more concise format, it can also help you in proofreading or in some sort of editorial stuff that a human would take a longer to like carry out those tasks. So yeah, so that's so this is just like a simple example. I hope you enjoyed this watch along, like hands-on experience, because I would definitely recommend you to go back to that OpenAI, API key site, generate a secret key for yourself, and start playing around with the GPT 3.5 playground. And if you don't want to like use Python notebook for that, you can always call the API
from any other tool as well. If you are like a C# developer, if you're like a Java developer, you can also like use the same API key to harness the power of the GPT 3.5 model and build a small web app that you can use for different purposes. So let's go to the next section to wrap up this vlog.
I hope you enjoyed the previous section where I gave you another hands-on experience on how you can play around with this GPT 3.5 platform and even use that API to build different apps, such as like building a grammar correction app, or even building a tool that can help writers to formulate a better contents, and also like help them out in like writing essay or some sort of editorial stuff. So now talking about app, now you need to get, I guess you're wondering that how I can build my first app using that API. Because what I showed you in the previous section, it was more of like, calling the API through a Python notebook. But you still cannot build a web app using that API, right? So in my next vlog, I'll show you that how we can build a very basic Streamlit web app using that same API that I showed you in the previous section. So let's stay tuned for that, and I hope you understand a little bit about Streamlit. If you don't, then please check in the video caption where I shared a learning material of how to get acquainted with the Streamlit Python library. So I would definitely recommend you to get used to with the Streamlit Python library, because in my next vlog I will use that in a particular library to build a web app using the NLP model like GPT 3.5. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope now we can go back to GPT 3.5 playground and use your own API to start building some new products. And this kind of opens the door for so many new software as a service products, and I'm pretty sure people start thinking about new business ideas where they can use ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 model to build a better product. We don't know what future lies in. We know that GPT-4 would come soon. With this current in Microsoft investment, OpenAI is gonna grow bigger and better in future. So we all can we are like pretty much excited for this new revolutionary product, and I think this is gonna take us to the next level of artificial intelligence revolution. So let's see what the future holds for us. But till then, goodbye. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, as more contents on data science and artificial intelligence are forthcoming. Thank you.